Welcome back, everyone. Another cold season is upon us, and I've got 5 games to keep you entertained while you're staying warm inside. Yes, the snow is beautiful, but who wants to be out there? Shoveling's bad enough, right? And I don't ski. So, these 5 games are a mix of childhood favorites and games that I just played recently, and they are sure to transport you to that winter wonderland. Starting out with the childhood favorite, Spelling Blizzard. But before I detail the game, I have to caution everybody, this game is largely inaccessible. I ended up re-experiencing it on a browser, aside from having the jewel case, which I actually forgot at my parents', and so here's an image that I'll just hold my hand open for. You will have to download the ISO and DOSBox and try to launch it through there, or just give it a shot on the browser like I did for these recordings. Anyways, what you have in Spelling Blizzard is a cute little puzzle game where you're up in the Arctic, you arrive on the different puzzle maps on your raft, and then you step off onto the glaciers, and you have to collect letter tiles sequentially to spell out real words. So for example, let's say the word maple. That means that on the map, I have to collect the letters in the order M-A-P-L-E. And while I'm doing that, I have to navigate around different obstacles, maybe some animals that are trying to kill me, like polar bears and whatnot. I can collect some fish and throw them at whales to freeze them in their position. And then while they're satiated, I can use them as little bridges to cross over to other formerly inaccessible terrains. It's a really fun game. Yes, it may seem pretty simple, but as the levels progress, there are more hazards, tiki torch looking things that fire blow darts at you, and also a bunch of other animals. So it's a good time, and in between the levels, you're going to be doing a little typing game just to test your typing ability. The narrator over here says a word for you, you listen, you type it. I don't remember what happens if you don't get it correct. In my little replay, I happen to get everything correct because it is a children's educational game, but that's okay. A lot of fun, and you know what? Beautiful winter environments and some catchy music as well. And the last thing I'll say about Spelling Blizzard is this is very much a self-indulgent pick. I've just wanted to talk about this game for a really long time, and this was the perfect opportunity to do so on the channel. Next up is Batman Arkham Origins. This is my first foray into the Arkham series, and if you're like me, you haven't played it before, I'm not a superhero guy or a comic book guy, so yes, even though I've heard really good things about the Arkham games, I just shelved them indefinitely. This is kind of like the Die Hard of video games, I suppose, although there is a Die Hard video game, but you know exactly what I mean, how Die Hard's a Christmas movie. Anyways, so the game takes place on Christmas Eve. That's what I wanted to say. Let me tell you, I played it on Steam, I maxed out the graphics, looks gorgeous. If you are wondering if you can jump into this game in this point in the series like I did, yes you can, because chronologically, it is the first game in the series. Aside from that, what do you have? Well, the simple story is that there's this antagonist, Black Mask, and he's hired 8 assassins to kill the Batman. And believe it or not, that story is executed so well, and that was enough to propel me through some surprisingly slow action combat. The combat is very much just button mashing beat 'em up. You're hitting X a whole bunch of times and aiming your control stick to jump to and from different enemies. As you beat up different groups of enemies, you'll get more experience, and then you can dump that experience into leveling up some skills. So that was nice. Still, it never made that aspect of the gameplay overwhelmingly fun for me. It made it tolerable more than anything. But where this game excelled, for me anyways, is a little bit in the collectathon aspect, and especially in just kind of playing freely. So you're using your grappling hook, whatever Batman calls it, I don't know, and you're launching yourself from lampposts to gargoyles on skyscrapers to a water tower. That's really nice because you can take in all these snowy environments. There happens to be a blizzard on Christmas Eve, of course there is. And every now and then you just want to park yourself somewhere up high and spin the camera around and take in Gotham. It really does look beautiful, and it really does transport you into winter. So enjoy that part of it. Again, I can't really recommend it as the best action game that I've ever played, but I can certainly recommend it as a great winter game. And you know what? As you go through those different assassins, the story does pull you in. It's just exciting, right? It gets your adrenaline going. So Batman Arkham Origins, I recommend it. Next up is another game that I played in my childhood, SSX Tricky, a snowboarding game. Oh yeah, I played it on the GameCube. I believe it is multi-platform. There's even a sequel, and maybe it plays better than this one. But I wanted to revisit the game from my childhood. How can this not be a winter game? I don't need to talk about it too much because every single map takes place on some snow, right? You're snowboarding, wow. And you get to go around to different countries and their different races and events. And the thing that I like about this snowboarding game is not actually the tricks, although, yes, they're there, but they're not mandatory. You don't have to use them as you play the campaign. What I really enjoyed is looking for shortcuts and alternate routes. And so maybe you fall behind a little bit as you're veering towards the outside of a track. However, you see that there's some breakable glass, and you plow right through it, and 10 seconds later, as you're crouching down and gaining a little bit of speed, you pass your opponents on the course and you emerge in front of them. I love shortcuts in games. I wish more racing games, specifically, obviously, I wish more racing games had shortcuts on their maps. So if you're somebody who likes that aspect, then you should get a kick out of this one. As for the campaign, or the different ways to play it, first I will say that there are many ways to experience the game. You can go for time trials, you can play for tricks and scores, or you can just try to get some gold medals. Now, this game is a lot to handle in concentrated gaming sessions, right? It's not a game that you exactly want to dump 4 hours into every single day, but it's great if you play it for an hour or two. Next week, you pick it up again, you do a couple more races. I find myself still going back to this game. I haven't beaten it yet, but I've played enough to be able to recommend it. So there you go, SSX Tricky. Recommendation from me, but I am curious to hear from people who've played more in the SSX games. How does the rest of the series compare? Now, these next two games to close out the list are both equal in winter comfort. That's what I would say. They both really immerse you in the winter season. However, there's got to be a winner and there's got to be a loser between the two of them. And so the next game we're talking about is Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts. I played this again on Steam, really enjoyed it. It's not my first sniper game. I've played a couple, and the series is really underrated. If you have always enjoyed when you played FPS games, getting the sniper rifle and just doing long-range pot shots on everyone, you're gonna love these games. I can vouch for this one especially, and I may as well include right now, Sniper Elite V2. So what is going on in Ghost Warrior Contracts? You've got 5 maps that you can play. These are massive, sprawling, can't call them open world, but they're seriously gargantuan maps. And you can be playing each one anywhere between 25 minutes and over an hour. Playing on the hardest difficulty, some of my missions took about an hour and a half when you accounted for the dying as well. Basically, you're deployed and you have a series of primary objectives and bonus objectives. Primary objectives might be things like assassinate this character, go steal this intel, and come back to base with it. And then the bonus objectives probably do include a couple assassinations as well. I mean, what else are you going to do with a sniper rifle, right? You're killing people, obviously. But you can also get up close and personal. I want to say that. There's a large arsenal of weapons at your disposal. But anyways, it's this system of different objectives, and you're just trying to take your time on the maps, going to and from different places, either with some stealth or abandoning stealth if you want to go guns blazing. And as you complete these objectives, you get currency. And the currency lets you unlock all kinds of upgrades. Your character, you can unlock things for your suit. So think about getting technologically enhanced and let your imagination go crazy. There's stuff that you can do with that. You can obviously unlock your weapons, more weapons, customize your sniper rifles. Don't miss that in the options. I actually missed it until I beat the game. Right there on the bottom right of the screen, it says you can customize a gun. Yeah, don't forget that. And lastly, let me just talk about how great this game is, a winter experience. I mean, you've seen it on screen as I've been showing the footage, but there were so many times when I would just get to the edge of a platform or I would go to the end of a glacier, and there isn't necessarily an objective in that area. I just happened to make my way over there, and I just wanted to take it in. So looking out on the water, looking at the different glaciers, like I already said, sometimes looking at the different buildings and structures and seeing how they're snowed in. And you can also enjoy the jungle and the forest environments, just as a little bonus. So there you go. That was Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts, a very underrated game. And finally, we are wrapping up this list with a relatively unknown game called Roki. Once more, I play this on PC. It is a puzzle adventure with Scandinavian influence. I'm not sure if the mythology is invented or if it's based on real-world mythology. Whatever it is, it gets the job done. I will say the first chapter is incredibly slow, very tedious, as the puzzles are mostly for tutorial purposes, and it just takes too long getting the story going, which you don't really care about, and you don't need that much exposition or long scenes, but it is what it is. They tried to build up some drama, this indie studio. Anyways, once you finally get to start playing, I won't reveal too much about the story, but the bulk of the game consists of you playing as Tove, trying to rescue her brother, Lars. And just a side note, at the risk of embarrassing myself, it's really humorous to me. I find it so amusing when Tove is crying out, Lars!
Lars?
Lars!
Lars?
Anyways, I think if you play the game, every time you hear it, you'll probably get a chuckle out of it. Why? Not because her brother's in distress. No, that's not funny. Just because the way she says it. Anyways. Once you get into the second chapter, and you've gotten through, again, just some slow parts, maybe 15 to 20 minutes of slowness to start chapter 2. So at this point, I've probably played 45 minutes to an hour of the game. Now it starts to branch out. Now you're not limited to playing in a very linear style. Now you can go north, find some different items on the ground that maybe help you east or west. You're not sure. Okay, you take the items that you have in your possession, you go to the west, you try to use them there. So once the game opens up and once you really begin the exploration, I will say the puzzle solving also just goes up a little bit of a difficulty. Instead of being something as simple as talk to an NPC or examine an item and get something in your inventory and you automatically know where to put it, it becomes a little bit of a logical guessing game. Okay, so this NPC, he's got a little request to light a fire, let's say. Well, I've got string, I've got this, I've got that. I don't know if I can make a fire, but maybe I can use these items over here on a different part of the map. And again, excuse me for being vague, but that's the kind of puzzle game it is. And again, I don't want to get into too many of the story elements. I will say, as a puzzle game, it's pretty good. As a winter game, it's fantastic. And that's why it's number 1 on this list. I give priority to the games that best embody the winter season. And so Roki, this is a game that you can get lost in for a few nights. This is a game that you will enjoy, uncovering different mysteries and exploring everything that you can. Oh, but one word of caution, one warning for everybody. There are missables in this game, and I can't stand that. For a game that's made in the last decade, why do you make it that way? Why do you design it that way? But it is what it is. Just be aware of that as you're nearing the end of every chapter. If you feel like there's some items in your inventory that may be useful for a quest or for a particular achievement, go try to wrap those up. What ended up happening is I beat the game with about a 70% completion, and the only way to go back is by starting a new file. So it still gets my recommendation despite that one flaw. There's no game-breaking bugs or anything like that. The game plays really smoothly, and again, it transports you into this Scandinavian winter wonderland. So that is it for 5 winter games for 2025. Hopefully everybody has a great winter and holiday season. Play those games that I talked about today. Spelling Blizzard, yes, it's a little harder to get your hands on, but you could play it in browser. Sniper, Ghost Warrior Contracts, Batman, Arkham Origins, Roki, SSX Tricky, and let me know what games you're going to be playing as well. Hope everyone has a great holidays, Merry Christmas, and see you in the next season. Bye-bye.